Hello everyone, myself Sunil Pawar from New Catholic Mission High Secondary School, Jhabua. Today we are going to take the new session for 12th class biology. As you know that in our previous session, we already started chapter number 5 from NCERT book, that is the principle of inheritance and variation. Okay. Today we are going to take part 2. In part 1, we already finished about the Mendelian work, okay, his experimentation, his conclusion, his observation, okay, and reason behind selecting the garden pea as a genetic material, right. As well, we also learn that what is the procedure or methodology he used, okay, how he has chosen the pure breed, even that time when nobody knows about the genetic material, about the alleles, about the genes, but because of only and only the observation and his keen interest and observation in the field of agriculture and the reproduction, the practices which we applied for this one thing, he was come to conclude the final decision this much correctly, right. So in this one, with the help of that monohybrid and dihybrid cross, okay, we learn that what was the ratio of the monohybrid cross, genotype and phenotype. Yes, tell me. Right. The genotype ratio was 1:2:1 and the phenotypic ratio of monohybrid cross was 3:1. Okay. I just want to recall that in both the monohybrid and dihybrid cross, there was no appearance of the recessive character in F1 generation. Right. Recessive characters only observed in the only observed in the F2 generation. Clear? And the result of dihybrid cross ratio F2 generation, its genotype and phenotype, when we observe that, then in the genotype, that is the 1:2:2:4 1:2:1 and the phenotypic ratio was 9:3:3:1. Just remember this one because it is helpful to learn about the second part. That's why I am just recalling this one. Okay. Just remember this one because it is helpful to learn about the exceptions of the Mendelism. Clear? Because whatever the experiment was done or whatever the work was done by Mendel was further proceeded by the next geneticians and this the modern genetics, what we call that is. Okay, then they find somewhat exceptions or the deviation from this Mendelian observation and it was named as the deviation of the Mendelism, right. So today in our video session we are going to discuss about the Mendelian's law of inheritance. Okay, Mendelian's law of inheritance, you know that his total observation and inference was finally propounded in the form of 3 laws and it was named as the law of inheritance, and in the honor of Mendel we call it also the Mendel's law of inheritance. So what are these laws? We will discuss today. Second one, that is the deviation from the Mendelism. As I told you, further observation and discussion except then the garden pea, okay, when done by the different scientists like the Hugo de Vries and Morgan and other one, okay, then they observe some deviations also. So we are going to discuss under this heading. One, that is the incomplete dominance, second is the codominance, next one is the multiple allelism, then pleiotropic effect, then polygenic inheritance, and finally we will finish with this word complementary genes. Okay, so these are the example and deviation of the Mendelian's inferences or the conclusions. Then later we will discover about the rediscovery of the Mendel's laws. Okay, as I told you earlier, the work of Mendel was further forwarded or by the fellow workers. Okay, and they also concluded few facts, and you know that nearly 30 years, for the 30 years the work of the Mendel remained what? It was remain hidden, it was remain unrecognized. Okay, so the rediscovery of Mendel's law was performed by the fellow workers. Okay, so what was it? We will discuss. Then we will discuss finally the chromosomal theory of inheritance, how these characters are inherited from one generation to next generation. Okay, so finally we come to conclude it that the chromosomes which is present in the nucleus is basically considering genes, and along with this one they are able to carry the genetic information from one generation to next generation. And finally the linkage groups. Okay, what is the linkage and what are the linked group, we will discuss in this one. Clear? So now first of all we are going to discuss the laws of Mendelian in inheritance. Clear? You know that he performed two crosses basically. First one was the monohybrid cross and second was the dihybrid cross, right? So on the basis of the monohybrid cross he derived the first two law. Okay, and on the basis of the second cross, what we call that is the dihybrid cross, he just performed the third law. Clear? So because of numbering, okay, this laws of inheritance also named is Mendelian first law, second law and third law. Okay, first law is also named as the law of dominance, right? Second law is known as law of segregation, but is also named as law of purity of gametes, right? And the third one, that is the law of independent assortment. Okay, so these laws can be asked in the form of the number, the second law or third law, but it always fixed for the first, second and third law. What is this one thing? Okay, so now here we are going to discuss the first law, that is the law of dominance. Clear? So the statement is that it is stated that the characters are controlled by genes which occurs in pairs. As you know that there is a homologous pair of chromosome and on the same locus two allelic genes are there, so we call them, they occurs in the pairs. Okay, and when two alternate forms of a trait or characters are present in an organism, only one factor expresses itself in F1 generation, okay, while the other factor remains hidden. Okay, so it explains the expression of genes in a cross and 3:1 ratio obtained in the F2 generation. Okay, the few facts are here. One thing that the allelic pair of gene. Second is that when these two alternate form of the genes are there, that means what we call that is the two opposite traits are there. Okay, and then in F1 generation only one is able to express. Okay, even though the members of F1 generations are heterozygous in nature. Heterozygous means what? The two homologous chromosome contain the opposite genes, just like that. For example, okay, if we are considering the character that is the height, then two traits are there. One is the tall and second is the dwarf. You know that which one is the dominating one? Right. Tall is the dominating and dwarf is the recessive one. So in this generation, first generation, when this two different genes are there, okay, in the same allelic pair, okay, locating on the same locus, but out of these two only one is able to express itself and it is responsible for masking the impact of the other. Okay, it means that one gene is able to hide the impact of second gene. Clear? And this phenomenon is called as dominance. Clear? And this gene is called as dominant gene. Okay, and the phenotypic character which exhibited by this one is called as dominating character. And of course this law is called as law of dominance. Clear? So when the two opposite parents homozygous, okay, one is dominating and second is recessive, when crossed, then in F1 generation the one character is only exhibit and it is responsible to hide or masking the other. Okay, so it is called as dominating character. Okay, the phenomenon is called as dominance and the law is called as law of dominance. And remember, the second gene who is failed to express itself phenotypically in F1 generation. Okay, but when we allowed to self-pollinate this F1 generation, then we observe that in F2 generation 25 offspring will be able to express themselves with the recessive character. The character who was failed to express in F1 generation is now expressed in the F2 generation. Clear? So this is called as recessive character. Okay, the gene is called as recessive gene. Okay, and the phenomenon is called as recessiveness. Okay, so in one more term we can define it. This law states that in a heterozygous condition, as I told you, when the two allelic genes, one is dominating and second recessive, the allele whose characters are expressed over the other allele is called the dominant allele, and the characters of this dominant alleles are called dominant characters. Okay, and the characters that appears in the F1 generation are called as dominant characters, and the recessive characters appears in the F2 generation only. Remember this fact. Okay, recessive characters cannot be expressed in F1 generation if two homozygous parents are crossed with each other. Okay, so this is the law of dominance, and by taking the knowledge of this law of dominance, okay, we can apply practically. Okay, it is applicable practically. This law of dominance is very, very important in so many processes. Just like that, in eradicating some hereditary diseases. Okay, just like that, such diseases or such drawbacks which basically observe due to recessive gene, right? Okay, in this case it is the exception, it is a mutant gene actually. Clear? So this recessive gene is able to express itself, so you can remove this fault, okay, or this kind of disorder from the next generation only by crossing this individual with a normal dominating individual. Okay, just like that. So many defects, just like that the diabetes, okay. Similarly, likewise the depigmentation, or what you call that, the leukemia, or you can also call this one thing the depigmentation. Okay, so this can be replaced by this one. Okay, so many hereditary diseases which is causes because of the recessive can be replaced by this one. Okay, and the mutant genes can be also replaced by this one. Clear? It is helpful to insert a new character, desired character in the next generation, right? It is also helpful to develop a hybrid of the desired character, just like that. You are quite familiar with the hybrid of cow, okay, that is the Jersey, which is given the name Jersey. Okay, it is actually a cow or a variety of cow which generated by the combination of Holstein Friesian, in short we call the HF, okay, and the Indian country cow. Clear? So with the help of this combination, the new variety which generated is full of resistance and able to milk high. Okay, the milking capacity is increases, as well as it is also helpful to protect it from the diseases. Clear? So these two drawbacks, the less immunity of the HF and the less productivity of the country cow, can be removed by knowing the knowledge of which law? Right? It is law of dominance. Clear? So these are the basic facts which we can apply practically for improving the varieties, for improving the human race, for the betterment of the mankind. Clear? So this is the first law and its importance. Clear? Now then here we are moving toward the second law, or it is also termed as the law of segregation, right? It is also called as the law of purity of gamete. Why we call it the segregation? Segregation means to segregated or to separate, right? And the law of purity of gamete means what? Whatever the gametes will form, they will not loses their identity they will maintain their purity. Okay, just like that. The heterozygous parent, okay, is containing both the two gene. Okay, one is dominating and second is recessive. But in F2 generation, you observe the recessive character also. It means what? The recessive character was failed to express in F1 generation, but able to express itself in the F2 generation. Why is it so? Only and only because of the purity of gametes. There is no intermixing, there is no intermingling of the two different character, and each genes is able to maintain its identity. Right. So, in the form of these statements, we can learn that, okay, the factors or alleles of a pair segregate from each other during the gamete formation in a way that a gamete receives only one of the two factors, and they do not show any blending. Right. I think so not. I am damn sure you are familiar about the meiosis and the gametogenesis. You learn that during the process of gametogenesis, during the reductional division, okay, the number of chromosome become half and a diploid cell turns into the haploid one. So this haploid cells containing single set of chromosome, that means what? Only a single gene of that allelic pair goes to one gamete, okay. And the most important thing is that without intermixing, without blending, without intermingling with each other, and able to express itself in the next generation. This is the only reason. Okay, now one more we can say that this law states that when two traits come together in one hybrid pair, the two characters do not mix with each other and are independent of each other, and each gamete receives one of the two alleles during meiosis of the chromosome. Clear? When at the time of gamete formation, when meiosis takes place, then one set of chromosome goes to the two different daughter cell, okay, first division, and then later on it multiplies in the form of 2 to 4 gametes you will observe, okay. Out of 50% will have one gene and 50% will have second gene because of separation of this one. That's why we call it the law of segregation, and because they never loses their identity, so we call it the which one thing? The purity of gametes, right? Now, so the Mendel's law of segregation supports the phenotypic ratio of 3:1, that is the homozygous dominant and heterozygous offspring show dominant traits while the homozygous shows the recessive traits. Clear? In the F2 generation, when the two recessive genes come together, then they are able to express themselves in the absence of the dominating gene. Okay, it is only possible because of their purity, because of their identity. Right now, then here we are moving to the third law of inheritance. It is called as the law of independent assortment. Clear? In Hindi we call it the Swatantra Apvyuhan ka niyam. That means without interfering, without intermingling, without intermixing, it just move from one generation to next generation freely. Okay, and remember this law is actually derived from the dihabit cross. Okay, so in this one we can see that it is based on inheritance of two genes, that is dihabit cross, which states that when two pairs of contrasting traits are combined in a hybrid, segregation of one pair of character is independent of the other pair of characters. Remember, this is the most important one. And these factors randomly rearrange in the offspring during both parental and new combination of characters, and the Punnett square can be used to understand the independent during the meiosis. Okay, I think so. You are well aware of the dihabit cross ratio, in which we observe that the two individual. Okay, I think so. You remember that we have taken that the round shape, the round shape of the seed, and yellow color of the seed coat. Okay. On the other hand, the second was the wrinkle shape of the seed as well the green cotyledon. Okay, so just recall the first offspring of the F2 generation and the 16 of the cross, 16 individual which form in that Punnett cross, no? Punnett square. The first one was pure dominating and the 16th was pure recessive. So they assorted independently, clear. And finally, whenever they get chance to express themselves, then they again reunited. And this reunion is able to maintain their identity, and this is the law of independent assortment. That means without intermingling or blending in F1 generation, whenever they find this chance to reunite, they will express themselves in the form of the pure traits. Okay. Now in the second we can say that the law of independent assortment states that when inheritance of two or more genes occurs at one time, the distribution in the gametes and in the progeny of subsequent generations is independent of each other. That means without interfering, they may inherit it separately. And to prove this, it did a dihabete cross, and you know that what was the result? The genotype result was 1, 2, 2, 2, 4 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And what is the phenotypic ratio? 9, 3, 3, 1. Okay. So this law also says that at the time of gamete and zygote formation, the genes are independently passed on from the parents to the offspring, and this is the basic idea of law of independent assortment. Right. Now here, as I told you, when the fellow workers, okay, when work with this Mendelian cross, then they come to observe some deviations also. Okay, so now we are trying to learn about this one. Clear? So in this one, the first one, that is the incomplete dominance. Just give some stress on this word incomplete dominance. Okay, it means what? It is a phenomenon in which the F1 hybrid shows character intermediate of the parental genes. What you learn in the previous law of dominance, in F1 generation only and only which trait, which character will appear? Right, that is the dominant. But what you observe in this case? In this case, intermediate character is observed. And in this process, the phenotypic ratio of F2 generation deviates from the Mendel's monohybrid ratio. Okay, this experiment was performed by them in the dog flower, okay, that is snapdragon, and the 4 o'clock plant, that is the Mirabilis jalpa. Okay, and in this cross, whatever their observation and result, we can conclude with this diagram too. Okay, here you can see that the two homozygotic parent was taken. One is pure dominating and second is recessive. Clear? The recessive is white color and the dominating is red color. When they formed their gametes and crossed each other, and in F1 generation when you got the result, then this F1 generation was 100% which color? If you follow the law of dominance, then it must be red. But no, here you observe that F1 generation is 100% pink. That means it is an intermediate character, neither red nor white. What is the meaning? That means actually it is showing the dominating feature, but not completely. That's why we call it the incomplete dominance. Okay, when we allow this F1 generation to self, okay, when self crossing is performed in the F1 generation, then with the help of this Punnett square, you can see that we got one pure dominating, two mixed character, that is in the intermediate, and the one that is the recessive. The genotype ratio is same, 1:2:1. But what about the phenotype ratio? It is different one. It is not 3:1, it is 1:2:1. Okay. 25% dominating character, 25% recessive characters, and 50% that is the intermediate character. Okay, so this is a good example and explanation of the incomplete dominance. Remember, recessive character is not exhibiting in this F1 generation, but the dominating character is failed to express itself completely. This is the basic difference, okay? And you may also find the difference in the result of the F1 and F2 generation, right? Now, then here we goes to discuss the next example, that is the co-dominance. Co means together, okay? When the two characters come together, clear, in F1 generation, then what is your expectation of result of F1 generation? In F1 generation, we will get 100% dominating only single character. But you will just wonder that in this co-domination, okay, in F1 generation, both the two characters come together without influencing each other. This is the deviation, okay? Without interfering each other, both will express itself completely, okay? Just like that. I am giving you one example, okay? In the animal, then later we will discuss with the blood group also, okay? Now, just I think so you saw this roan cow, no? And the spotted cow with the both two different colors, one the red and second is white, or whatever the different two combination. In this you observe that both the two characters express themselves completely without influencing each other. It means what? There is no interaction of two genes, but they express themselves completely. This is the basic fact of this co-dominance. Okay, I am giving you one example again. Okay, just like one white cow and one red cow, when get mixed with the character, then in F1 generation, on the place of getting a single color, you will observe both the two color in F1 generation, and all the 100% individual will be same, right? And when you allow to cross this F1 generation, then in F2 generation, again you will get the same result of that co-dominance, that is the incomplete dominance, 1:2:1 in the genotype as well as 1:2:1 in the phenotype too. One pure red, one pure white, and two are roan in color, okay? So this is the basic example of this one. Okay, now we can also learn with the inheritance of the blood group of human beings. You know that we have three blood group, A, B, O, and one more, that is the AB. Clear? So you know that here you can see that clear. These are the different allelic form. One, that is the IA. Okay, you know that when this IA is interact with the IA, and in the genotype of offspring is IA, then what will be the blood group? The blood group will be A. Clear? When IA is interact with the IB and the genotype is IB, then what will be the blood group? Right, it is AB blood group. Clear? And when this IA allele is interact with the I only, then you will observe that what is the genotype? IAI. Then what is the blood group of individual? Again A. Okay. Similarly, when this IB is interact with the I, then what will be the individual blood group? That is the B. Clear? And when this I interact with each other, then neither A nor B, but it will be O, because there is no any specific gene for the deciding the blood group. Okay, so without antigen, the blood group will be O. So this is the example of the co-dominance, when two genes togetherly show their dominance without interfering the nature of each other. Clear? Now we are moving forward for the multiple allelism. Okay, see that word multiple allelism. Multiple means more than two, and allelism is the more allelic form. When more than two allelic form is available to decide and determine the inheritance and the characters of any variety or individual, then this is called as multiple allelism. With the help of this definition, we can conclude that when more than two alternative form, that means the allele of a gene occupy the same locus on a chromosome in a population, then these. In this one, what we learn, when more than two alternative forms of a gene occupy the same locus on a chromosome in a population, these are known as multiple allelism. Similarly, again we can take the example of blood group, human blood group, that is the ABO. Okay, see that to decide the blood group A or B or O, okay, more than two alleles are there, like IA, IB, IAI, IBI, IAIB, okay, and II. So this way you can see that more than two alleles are there, that's why we call it the multiple allelism. Okay, it can also be explained by ABO blood grouping. In this case, more than two, that is the three alleles are there, okay, as I told you, governing the same character, and the multiple alleles can be found only when the population studies are made, since an individual can have only two alleles. Okay, so this is the example of multiple allelism. Now here we are taking the next example, that is the pleiotropy. Okay, now the word itself giving you the meaning pleiotropy. It is the phenomenon in which a single gene exhibits multiple phenotypic expressions. Clear? Before this example, you just learn that one gene is responsible to influence one trait only. Clear? But here you can see that in pleiotropy, one gene is single gene exhibit multiple phenotypic expression. Okay, that means a single pleiotropic gene may produce more than one effect. Okay, that means this gene will consider the that is the pleiotropic gene, and this phenomenon is called as pleiotropy. Clear? Just like some examples are there, like with the phenylketonuria, a disorder caused by mutation in the gene coding the enzyme phenylalanine dehydroxylase. Okay, and the affected individuals show hair and skin pigmentation and mental problems. Clear? Now, one more example from the plants. The starch synthesis in the pea seed is controlled by one gene with the two alleles, that is the capital B and small b. Okay, now here you can see that starch is synthesized effectively by the homozygotes, that is the capital BB, and hence the starch grains are large and the seeds at maturity are round. What is the genotype? Capital BB. Remember this one. Okay, if capital BB is there, then it will be synthesized the good quality of the starch with the big granules at the time of storage, which is responsible to give a round shape to the seed. Now second case, the homozygotes small bb are less efficient in starch synthesis, hence they have small starch grains and the seeds are wrinkled in nature. Okay, now the third case, the heterozygotes capital B and small b produce round seeds, indicating that the capital B is the dominant allele, but the starch grains are intermediate in size, and hence for the starch grain size the allele show incomplete dominance. Okay, its shape will be round, but the starch will be not fully synthesized. Clear? Then the next case, it is an example of pleiotropy is that seem that the same gene control the two traits, one that is seed shape and the size of the starch grain. Clear? Right. So one will shows which one thing, the size of the, what is the first character? The shape of the seed. Okay. And what is the second character? The size of the starch granule which synthesized and stored in the seed. So these two characters are controlled by the single gene. That's why it is called the pleiotropy. Okay. Some other cases are also there, just like that the sorghum. No? The length of the internodes, the shape of the leaf, okay, the length of the leaf as well as the color of the leaf. These four characters are controlled by the single gene only. Okay, so remember this one. So here it is to be mentioned that dominance is not an autonomous feature of the gene or its product, but it depends on the production of a particular phenotype from the gene product also. Okay, now the next example, that is the polygenic inheritance. The word is giving you somewhat idea about the nature of the phenomenon polygenic. Clear? So it was first time given by the Galton in 1833. Okay, and in these traits are controlled by 3 or more genes, that means the multiple genes. That's why it is called as the polygenic inheritance. Clear? When the single character is controlled by 2 or more than 2 genes, that is called as the polygenic inheritance. Clear? And that togetherness is compulsory. So these traits are called as polygenic traits, and the phenotype shows the participation of each allele and is also influenced by the environment. It is called the quantitative inheritance, as the character of phenotype can be quantified. Clear? This is like, for example, if you observe the human color, skin color especially, so which is caused by a pigment, that is the melanin. You know that. What is the color pigment of human skin? Melanin, black color. Okay. The quantity of melanin is due to 3 pairs of polygens. Okay. One, that is capital A, second is capital B, and third is capital C. Clear? If these 3 different genes come together in the homozygotic condition, that means capital AA, capital BB, and capital CC, then the color of skin will be very, very dark. That means the pure black. Okay. Now, and when all these 3 in the recessive homozygotic condition, that means small a, small bb, and small cc, then it will be very light, or you can see that is the white in nature. Right. Now, if there is a mixing, that means capital A small a, capital B small b, capital C small c, then it will be a millet color. That means the intermediate color. Okay. And a total of 8 allelic combinations is possible in the gamete formation, and it will form the 27 distinct genotypes. So that's why the skin tone of the 2 different person will never match. Okay, it is not identical. Clear? And these differences are responsible for this one, and not only this one, some atmospheric conditions are also there who is responsible to decide the deposition of the melanin in the skin also. Clear? So this polygenic inheritance can be easily learned with the help of skin color of human being, where 3 genes, not a single, not a 2, but 3 genes are responsible to decide it. Okay. Now moving forward with the complementary gene. Okay. You are well aware of the complementary angles. Clear? When 2 complements each other, then this case is called as complementary nature. Okay, so here is also when the 2 different genes come together, then only they are responsible to decide that phenotypic feature. Otherwise, singly they are unable to decide this feature. Okay, just like that. Here, this sweet pea. Okay. That is the Lathyrus odoratus. Okay, here you can see the flower color. You can see that this white color parent, okay, capital CC, small pp, okay, and this white color parent, that is small cc, capital pp. Okay, when crossed, then in F1 generation you observe that the all plants with the purple color, and see the what is the genotype? Capital C small c, capital P small p. What you observe? Capital C and capital P when comes together, then it is responsible to give a different phenotypic feature. Okay, in parental generation you can see that both are with the white flower, right? But in the F1 generation, when they produce the individual, then it was not white in color, it is purple in color, because this capital C and capital P come together, then these genes are complementary and they are responsible to decide one feature, that is purple color. Okay. So, with the help of this Punnett square also we can learn the example. Okay. Just see that what is the normal result of dihabit cross F2 generation phenotyping? Right, it is 9:3:3:1. But when you come to observe this one, then its result is 9:7. Okay, 9 is of purple color and 7 is of white color. It is the deviation from the dihabit cross ratio of the Mendel's. Clear? And it is only because of which reason? That is the complementary genes. Clear? See that what is the genotypic ratio? It is also different one. Clear? So that's why you can see that whenever this capital C and capital P come together, either in the pure form or in the mixed form, but what is the compulsion? The two genes, capital C and capital P, then only this new character will appear. Otherwise, in the absence of any one dominating feature, it is unable to express. That's why here this capital C and capital is the dominating genes. Clear? Now we are moving forward to rediscovery of Mendel's law. Okay, as you know that though Mendel published his work of inheritance of characters in 1865 and it remained under unrecognized for several reasons up to 1900, that means near about 34 years to 35 years. Okay, what was the reason? One, that the communication was difficult that time and it was not widely publication, and one more important thing was that it was published in the local journal. Clear? And his concept of genes was still in the control and it was far ahead from his time, right? Then his approaches using the mathematical explanation was not easy and unable to understand by the common people. Okay, he could not provide any physical proof for the existence of the factor. He said that a factor who is responsible for inheriting, but he was failed to show this character physically. Clear? Now, so in 1900, Hugo de Vries, Correns and the von Teschmark, they rediscovered the Mendel's result independently and with the help of this microscopy, and now they are able to prove this one thing because they are able to see and observe the genes and the characters in them. Now this led to discovery of the chromosomes. Now finally we come to learn that there is a structure which is called as chromosome and who is the carrier of which thing? Genes. It is a vector, okay, who carried these genes from one to the next one. So that's why to learn about the inheritance of the character, it is compulsory to learn about the inheritance of the chromosome. So that's why to explain this one, a theory was given that is called as chromosomal theory of inheritance. Clear? So it is proposed independently by Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri when in 1902, and they united the knowledge of chromosomal segregation with Mendelian principles and called it chromosomal theory of inheritance. So what are the main features of this one thing? We can learn that the gametes, whether it is male or female, transmit hereditary character from one generation to another one. That means now he concluded who is responsible to carry this chromosome from one generation to next generation? The characters are carried by chromosome and chromosomes are carried by gametes. Clear? Now the nucleus is the site of hereditary characters. You know that nucleus contains genetic material. Okay. Then chromosomes as well as genes are found in pairs. You know that because homozygous pairs are there. The two alleles of a gene pair are located on homozygous site on the homologous chromosome, that is called as the locus, right? And the sperm and the egg having haploid set of chromosome fuse to regain the diploid state. You know that the haploid turn to diploid by the formation of zygote and in performed by the fusion of the gametes, which we call the fertilization. Okay. Now the homologous chromosome synapse during the meiosis and get separated to pass into different cells and is the basis of segregation and independent assortment during the meiosis. Clear? So this is the homologous chromosome. So with the help of this diagram we can learn this fact. Here you can see that this G1 and G2 phase of the interphase of the cell division, in which you can observe that they synthesize and prepare themselves for the next cell division. Okay, And when you observe the first meiotic division, then here you can see that this monovalent chromosome turns into the bivalent, and because of this pair it is called as the tetravalent. Clear? Now when here the first chromatic division was there, then it will be responsible to form this 2 nucleus, okay, and already crossing over is there, and when this second meiotic division is there, then finally 4 germ cell will produce and having the single set of chromosome and is responsible for transferring and separating and segregating the chromosomes. So what you observe, whatever the feature of this this cell is carried to the next one because of this one, and when this single chromosomal set will fuses with the another set from the opposite parent, then they will form the zygote and restore the diploid condition again. Clear? So here the experimental verification of the Mendelian experiment was also given by them. So what is the thing? The Morgan selected the fruit fly Drosophila melanogaster for his experiment, and what was the reason behind it? First of all, it goes very fast and it is easy to produce and grow in the on the artificial medium or in the laboratory too, okay, and the life cycle is only about 2 weeks, so it is easy to observe and handle for one life cycle. Clear? And a single matting could produce a large number of flies, just like the garden pea. A large number of offspring is observed, so if any variation is there, then we can observe it. So there was a clear differentiation of the sexes, that means the male is smaller and the female is the bigger one. And one of the important feature is that their genetic material is very simple. They have only 4 pairs of chromosome, then the location and the mapping can be done very easily. Clear? And the recombination explains the generation of the non-parental gene recombinations too, okay. So with the help of this one, when we form the hybrid, then it is easy to this one, okay. And Morgan and his group also found that even when genes were grouped on the same chromosome, some genes were very tightly linked and while the others were loosely linked. That is on the basis of the distance between the genes, okay. And this one is responsible to change the frequency of the recombination. The genes who very tightly arrange, they will have very low of recombination and very less changes will observe because of the grouped transfer of the genes, okay. Now so here we can also learn this linkage result with the help of this dihybrid cross which performed by the Morgan, okay. Here you can see this presentation, okay, with the help of this diagram. What we observe, when these 2 parents, one with the yellow white and second with the wild type, okay, is taken, here see that this wild type dominating is shown by these positive features on it. Clear? So this yellow and white is the dominating with this yellow white normal parent. Clear? So in the F2 generation, what do you observe? The wild type is observed with the pure yellow color, but the white was wild in nature, and here the normal yellow white was observed. Clear? And according to this one, what will be the result of F2 generation? That is 9331, but here in F1 generation we observe that 98.7 is the parental type and the 1.3 is the recombinant on the place of 100% parental type. In F2 generation we also got these changes only and only because of recombination, okay. The same variation is observed in this example too, okay. Now so only to learn and this one thing, sequencing of the gene is observed and performed by using the chromosomal mapping, and for this one thing the mega project, Human Genome Project, that is called as HGB, was launched by on the international level to learn about the human chromosome, its nature, its genes. Now lastly, here we are going to discuss one fact, that is the linkage group, okay. It is quite clear from the name that is the linked genes. Clear? What are the linked genes? 2 or more than 2 genes who located on the same chromosome is able to link together and inherit it together, okay. So that's why the number of genes which present on a chromosome is called as linkage group, okay. So in a see that the all genes linked together in a single chromosome constitute a linkage group, okay, and the number of linkage group in an organism is equal to the haploid number of chromosome, okay. So this theory was, hypothesis was given by the T.H. Morgan. So what do you conclude from this definition? What will be the number of linkage group? What is the number of haploid set of chromosome? You know that. What is your chromosomal number of 2XL? Right, it is 46. That means what is the haploid number of chromosome? 23. It means what will be the linkage number of linkage group of human being? Correct, it is 23. For the next example, if the Drosophila melanogaster having diploid cell with the 8 chromosome, then what will be the number of linkage group? Just guess it. Right, it is 4 only, because the number of haploid the number of chromosome in the haploid set is only 4. Okay, so this is the haploid set and the linkage groups are there. Okay, so please continue your studies and learn well. What are the exceptions of this one? You have to study it. Even there is the example of epistasis, clear, lethal genes, okay, and some other examples are also there which is helpful for your knowledge and study. So thank you very much for listening me patiently and of course seriously. So wish you all the best and keep studying. Thank you very much.